In today's video, we're going to try and take a full-size pumpkin and turn it into something of a Halloween treat. We want a gummy pumpkin. Guys, if you haven't checked out our shop lately, you are missing out. We have a handful of old project build kits up for sale, including cool builds like the micro crossbow. This crossbow is simple to make and can fire things like matches and sparklers to over 30 feet away. The kit has everything you need cut and ready to assemble, so you don't need to spend time going to the store to get everything you need. So go ahead and hit the link in the description to check out the kits. Guys, we've got a pumpkin.
You have a pumpkin.
And we're gonna do something similar to stuff we've done before, but I think this is the largest scale we've ever done it.
We have in the past made lots of different gummy and chocolate candies, things like that. We've even done different types of fruits. We did coconuts, we did limes, but those were all us casting in the bodies of fruits themselves. This time, we just want to cast the entire thing.
Here's the basic idea. We have a nice Halloween pumpkin and we're going to try to take a mold of it and then cast it in gummy candy. That should give us a gummy candy that weighs probably at least 10 to 15 pounds. So we've got a pumpkin. I tried to pick a good one that's approximately, a little bigger than a person's head, but not really. So about the size of a person's head. I didn't want it to be like huge, but I wanted it to be pretty good size, and I wanted kind of a taller pumpkin than a wider pumpkin, because if we succeed in casting this in gummy, I suspect it's going to smoosh itself a little under its own weight.
Smoosh? And
that'll give us more of a round, spherical pumpkin. Yes, smoosh. Smoosh. So, we've got some silicone rubber, and we are going to try to make a custom mold of this pumpkin so that what we cast is exactly the same as a real pumpkin.
So for this, what we're going to be doing is something called a glove cast. Now, there's different ways that you can cast in silicone. A lot of times what Nate and I used to do at a sculpting studio we worked at. So when you're casting clay and you're trying to make a mold of something, you normally will take metal or plastic sheets. You can call them shims. You use them as gates, barriers, basically, where you can then separate the silicone after it's done drying and then cast it in plaster. Well, for this, we want to make it a little bit more simple. We're going to have a single mold, which is called a glove cast, which then you're able to peel off and hopefully have it survive the process so that we can pour something into it when we're done. So we have 150 ounces of silicone, and this is Kick. So this is gonna be what allows us to actually have this cast solidify so that we can pour gummy into it later.
When we're casting the pumpkin, we're going to want to make sure that we get the stem. We think that's a good point to be sure is attached. So we're actually going to cast it upside down when we get to that point, which means when we make the mold, part of it is not going to be completely covered, and that's okay, and it makes our job easier, in fact. So this right here is just sort of a stand I threw together. It's a piece of PVC, some tape around it, and we're going to take our pumpkin and we're actually going to try and smash it down onto the PVC pipe, and we want it to just be something that's gonna hold it really well in place. The tape is just there in case the pumpkin slides too far, like if it pierces all the way through the pumpkin.
If it ends up all the way, if it ends up touching the base here, what's gonna end up happening is the pumpkin may touch the base and then there won't be any silicone there, so we're not gonna get a good cast.
There's no advantage. If we were gonna do it like that, we would just set it on the counter. All right, so we are at 12.9 ounces, basically 13 ounces.
So he's gonna use 1.3 ounces of our catalyst. So the catalyst that we're using today is kind of a middle ground as far as kick time goes. When I say kick, I mean when it starts to solidify. The mixture that we're using, it should kick in about 10 to 15 minutes. You'll also notice that we're not worrying about the counter at all. We're just sort of gonna let this drip, and it's gonna drip all over the place.
Oh,
but
everywhere.
Once silicone solidifies, we're not gonna have any problems. It'll peel right off.
Yes.
So what we're gonna do right now is sort of let gravity do a lot of this work so that we don't get bubbles. If we let it sort of drip down as it goes, bubbles have less of a chance to form.
All right, now we're gonna give this 15 to 30 minutes. We'll just come touch the spilled spots and see how it's doing. Once it's at least mostly cured, maybe not even all the way cured, then we'll just do another layer, and we'll probably try and get up to 3 or maybe even 4 layers. We've got several layers, I think 3 or 4 layers of silicone.
3 at least, 3 very thick layers.
And that should be enough for our single-use casting in gelatin. Now what we're going to do is put a shell on it. We're going to be using plaster of Paris, and this is little bundles of hemp that's just been made into these sort of bird nest things. And this does a really good job of holding the plaster in thick layers. So we'll apply a very thin layer of plaster everywhere, and then we'll soak these in plaster and just stick them on. And that will help build a really big solid shell, probably bigger and more solid than we need to. We might stretch them out to get it a little thinner,
The reason that we use these is because it helps reduce the weight of the plaster. If we just did a full plaster casing, it's going to be like trying to pick up a boulder. So by putting these in it, it actually helps add strength as well as making the whole thing a little bit lighter.
Both sides are mostly
Dry-ish.
cured. Yeah, we could probably leave them overnight if we wanted them to get really hard, but I don't think there's gonna be that much resistance to popping them off. So
Should be all right.
we're gonna try and go around and carefully pull these off. And then we're going to cut the actual pumpkin out of the silicone mold as well. Good side.
Yeah, I can't tell which side's leaning.
Side. Yeah, one side is probably moving more than the other, but they're just sort of splitting apart, so it's hard to see. Maybe they're both moving.
I think we got this one.
There you go.
Cool.
And this one's like halfway off as well.
Yep.
Whoa.
All
Beautiful.
right.
Look at that.
Nice.
And now these just go together pretty well.
Yep. Be able to clamp those up.
Now
All right.
let's get a razor blade and we're going to cut this open.
Not very far, because this is a glove mold. We didn't put any keys or registration marks in it, so we don't want to cut it too far.
I'm gonna be going back and forth like this, just a little bit like a lazy river, and that will just help us line everything up when we're trying to cast into it. All right, there you go. Now, whoop. Get off the stem. That's gonna be the grippiest part, but it came off great.
There we go.
Woo!
Look at that.
That's excellent.
Oh yeah, that was no longer happy about what we were doing to it. The insides have basically just condensed.
We can throw that pumpkin away because it's been sitting carved into for a while and we didn't take out any of the guts or anything. It's probably not super happy about all that.
So what'll happen is we're gonna be pouring a liquid into it. So we'll put these together. This will be inside, and then as soon as we pour the liquid in, even if this is a little bit collapsed, it's gonna be okay. The liquid's gonna smooth everything out.
So because this is not a super stiff silicone mold, it is going to try and collapse a little bit, but hopefully when it's standing up, it'll hold its shape pretty well.
We're gonna make like 2 gallons of jell-o now? Or gummy candy?
All right, we have our vat here of cool water with corn syrup, gelatin, and jell-o in it. Now we are going to turn the heat on. This whole time we've been using cool water. That's how you get the gelatin to mix in properly. If you add it directly to hot water, it won't absorb the water correctly, and you'll end up with lumps and weird bubbles. So we're gonna add low to medium heat and just keep stirring until all of this goes clear. At that point, it should be ready to pour into our pumpkin mold. It's gonna take a little bit of stirring. I don't want to try and just pour it from the pot in because there's no way that would go well.
Okay.
And we would end up pouring hot jell-o everywhere, I'm
Yeah.
sure of it. So
Oh my goodness.
I'm honestly thinking 1 cup at a time, just pouring it in on top. Time to demold this thing. We did run into a couple issues. It leaked a little bit out the mold and it just poured down into the bucket, which is why we
You can
had it on
actually
the
just
bucket.
see like it even escaped out the side of a piece of plaster.
We just made a little bit more and filled it back up. So there may be like a dividing line or maybe it like melted. It'll be hard to see.
We can clean it up though. We can
We'll find
slice
out.
some edges off.
Okay, side one.
Okay, glorious.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Blubbity, 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 blub. Inside, well covered in leaking jell-o. Roll out blob pumpkin. So remember how I said I picked a kind of vertical pumpkin because I thought it was gonna flatten out? I think we're gonna end up with like a wide, short pumpkin, and hopefully it holds itself together and doesn't just like split under its own weight. This is by far the most gummy candy we've had in one piece. Error.
Yep, X out, not even
Pretty
a
sure
problem.
we're over 15 pounds.
Okay, all right, ready?
So now we see how well silicone comes off of gelatin. Yeah, the stem has all sorts of undercut bits.
There we go. That's still so much better than I thought it was gonna be.
Roll it out this way.
Look
And
at
there's
that
our
little pumpkin.
Fat little gummy pumpkin.
Oh, I'm so happy about this.
The normal method of carving a pumpkin, of course, would be to cut open the lid.
The
Scoop
lid.
out, cut out what becomes a lid. Scoop out the insides. We have a giant crack on one side of our pumpkin,
Yeah.
and our insides are all that's holding it up.
Yeah.
So if we scoop them out, we would just have an empty shell collapsed on the counter. Do you think we can just carve right into it and come up with something that looks like a face?
Just see maybe scoop out like a couple of eyes in the mouth. It's perfect.
That split is spreading up
Yeah.
the pumpkin.
The pumpkin is slowly collapsing under his own insane weight. But look, he's so happy about it.
You should karate chop it.
I should karate chop it. There's no good reason for me to do that, but now I have to.
Yeah, just miss the stem because you're gonna get green all over your hand.
3, 2, 1. This is the toughest pumpkin ever.
This is exactly what pumpkins aspire to. It's a very happy pumpkin. That is the largest blob
Jell-O.
of jell-o I've held at once. Well,
All right.
that was glorious.
Yeah, we did it. Happy Halloween, guys.
Took a couple of days to make and a couple of minutes to destroy. But in the resulting time, we had the first full-size gummy pumpkin that I've ever seen. And I did check, guys. They did not have pumpkin-flavored jell-o.
Does your pumpkin do this? Because my pumpkin does this, and I've never been quite so happy about a pumpkin before.
Guys, that's not all. We've always got more for you to see. Hit that box up at the top to check out our most recent video, and we'll see you in the next one. Talk to you then.